Here we have the Matrix Max. Compared to our Matrix product, what makes this Max is that the strut is actually a lot thicker. What's great about that is it's much more durable and can take a lot more impact for your patients. You're looking then for a patient which has higher activity and might need that more control, or perhaps is taller or heavier in weight. If we have a look at the design benefits of the Matrix Max, what I'd like you to first of all look at, making it different from other off-the-shelf products, is the alignment of the foot plate. If you were to take a normal last of shoe, you normally have a heel pitch. That heel pitch is different by roughly 10 millimeters from the heel to the ball of the foot, and then we tend to have a toe spring in there as well. So we've actually shaped the foot plate in the lines of thinking about that pitch inside a normal last of a shoe. What that means is when you put it into the shoe, it will actually fit a lot more flush. So another design feature that we have with the Matrix Max is this anterior shell. What makes this anterior shell a little different is it's made from plastic, which is heat moldable, and it can also be bent actually physically by your hands in clinic to be a little bigger or smaller to fit the shin of the patient. As you know, an off-the-shelf product can come in, say, small to extra large, but every patient can differ that little bit. So it's nice to have that adjustability at the front. What it also has here is you'll see there's 2 screws, and these are loosened with an Allen key. The idea being that it's then height adjustable. If you have a patient who's a little taller or smaller, you can then slide this and try and match their anatomy a little closer. Another design feature that we have with the Matrix Max is that the way that it goes on and off is through the velcro straps. We've got 2 of these, and it makes it easier for the patient to get on and off independently. We also have a foam liner inside here. Now this area is where it makes most contact with the patient's skin. So we've made this that it's removable, and it's actually fixed in with velcro. We also supply a second one with every Matrix Max that we give to a patient, because then they can take this out and change it over just to make sure that it's kept clean. With the velcro straps, these are actually completely removable. So what's important when we're looking at the Matrix Max is how this functions when a patient's actually walking in it. What we've done is certain areas are more durable than others because it's made up from carbon fibre and glass fibre. What's great about it is that we want to have some good shock absorption, for example, at heel strike through to the first loading response and gait. So we have a more durable heel section through close to the met heads. What we then have done is we've got a more flexible front. So when the patient actually progresses over the brace, they're held, but then it will flex just a little bit, especially at the forefoot, to allow them to then rock over into their third rocker of gait before swing phase. The Matrix Max is primarily used for patients that have drop foot weakness to actually hold their foot up during swing phase, as well as having that shock absorption that I mentioned through stance phase and giving some push off from the carbon fibre makeup. It also can be used for patients, for example, that have a partial foot amputee. If they have some toes missing, then the rigid lever on the carbon can perhaps replace some of the function of that, especially when they roll over onto the forefoot and are looking to take weight on that part of their foot. What you can do with this product is put some additional items onto it. For example, an insole, whether that's prefabricated or custom made. The reason for that is if you have a patient that has mild pronation or supination, you can prescribe the insole to help give that medial lateral support. The foot plate is only a couple of millimetres in thickness, therefore it usually fits inside footwear fairly well. Let's have a look at the alignment of the lower extremity in the device. What we're looking at here is the anterior tilt of the tibia. This should be approximately at 10 degrees inclination forward to mimic normal biomechanics in gait. If we don't have 10 degrees of inclination forward, what we could look to do is provide, for example, a heel raise, whether inside the footwear under or over the Matrix device, or we can consider using a rocker sole adaptation on the footwear. Let's have a look at the Matrix Max being fitted onto a patient. The first thing we do is select the size of the foot plate length. With the device comes a flat insole with double-sided tape. Remove the backing and then this can be fixed onto the foot plate. By altering the position of the insole in relation to the foot plate, the position of the lateral strut can be moved relative to the lateral malleolus. When selecting footwear, it's important to look for a slight rocker sole where the heel pitch is 10mm higher than the sole thickness at the ball of the foot. Also looking for a toe spring of approximately 10 degrees, which is consistent with a standard shoe. One option with footwear is if they have an insole that comes as part of the shoe, this can be used instead of the insole provided with the device. Then we put the device into the patient's footwear and don the entire lot as one piece to make it easier for the patient. Once in place, we're going to adjust the anterior shell. You loosen the screws by turning them to the left. At this point, you want to set the height of the anterior shell approximately 1/4 to 1/2 inch below the patella tendon. Once in place, then tighten the screws to the right. And at this point, the Loctite that are on the screws will keep them in place. Once we have this, you'd want to don both straps, doing the distal one first and then the proximal. You need to ensure there's decent tension on these to actually hold the device against the patient's leg. You then want to fasten the footwear, whether that's velcro or laces, with decent tension, and then the patient is ready to walk in the device.